Thank you so much, Shahid, and welcome to everybody here on our second day of the Configit CLM Summit. Now, my role in Configit is I'm heading our group of product managers. And what we do is that we go out and talk to our customers and try to understand the market so that we can build software that addresses the most important problems that we see out there. Now, today I'm going to talk about two trends that we have looked at recently. And the first trend is the digital thread. A lot of people talk about the digital thread, and today I'll try to explain a little bit more how we see the digital thread as part of the CLM journey. Now, the other trend is about sustainability. It's about regulatory compliance. Additional rules are being imposed on manufacturing companies in order for them to become more environmental, to become more sustainable. It may appear that those two trends are rather disconnected, but I'll show you in a moment that they are closely related and closely integrated. Traditionally, when we talk about CLM, we talk about complex products, and we talk about how to manage the constraints, the rules that goes into those products, both from an engineering side and certainly also from a commercial and a marketing side, where you want to make sure that those constraints form up a consolidated view so that you can sell and manufacture and deliver products that are in agreement with both the technical and the commercial. And then on top of this, we have to handle the additional challenge of dealing with markets across the globe. Each market have unique capabilities, unique requirements, unique ways you would like to position your product. That is how we traditionally have solved problems for our customers to address this particular need. What we start to see now is that even products that are not configurable, or at least appear not to be configurable, even those simple standard products, they start to see additional variability coming in. And the reason for that is, one is that you would like to position, in this case, a very well-known product of a cereal box. You would like to position that differently. The view and the look of that box is different across different markets. But you'll also find, if you dig into it and look at the ingredients that go into that product, so even though it looks from a customer perspective as the same product, there are differences in the ingredients, partly due to, mostly due to regulatory differences across these markets. So we see an increase in the amount of regulation that comes from the different governments. On the right here, I've shown a graph. It shows how Europe by far is the ones that introduce the most additional regulatory rules, but all other countries are also following suit and see an increase in that. And let me give you a few examples of the flavors of that type of regulation. So for example, EU is introducing a new set of laws that basically are going to regulate the way you package your products. The intention is to make it more sustainable, basically putting a tax on those that package their products in a less sustainable way. Another example could be another EU directive, the Digital Product Passport. This is a requirement to manufacturers that consumers can trace the content of what goes into that product. And if we look at that a little bit more in the Digital Product Passport, the idea is that you can scan a QR code on the product, and by doing so, you will be able to dig into and see all the constituent elements of that product. You can find out how sustainable, how it's been manufactured, the CO2 footprint, and all that stuff. Now, this in itself is a challenge for many manufacturers, for sure, to collect all this data and make it available. But when you start to look at configurable products where there's a variability and not two products are identical, then this passport will have to be adapted to the individual instance of the products. And then you start getting into where CLM is necessary, because CLM has the promise of making sure that the life cycle of the product is aligned from early on, engineering, design, manufacturing, and service, and being able to expose this. And the product passport, you can look at that as one channel that needs to have access to product information across its life cycle. So 2 trends. Digital thread requires that you can follow those configurations around, and the regulatory requirements means that you have to manage that and do so in a way that you're sure that your products that you sell are according to those requirements. Now, the question that we often are asked is, how do you get started? Where do I start? This seems very big, and there are many functions involved. And last time we introduced to you a simple approach. It basically said, start by finding out where the problem is the biggest today and focus on that. The next step would then be to say, well, I need to get these rules somewhere. And either you have to create the models from scratch, but most likely you already have data around, either in legacy systems or otherwise. PLM systems will have some of it, engineering data. Other data may sit in Excel sheets, but you have to then get those data into our modeling environment. And last year we introduced a standard way of doing this that was presented, how you can take external data. It's called the rule reuse package, and it basically allows you to import data from external sources and make it available together with other data that you might create manually in the system. And then the next step would be, once you have the modeling data in our system, you will have to get value out of that, and the way to do that is to integrate to various enterprise systems. And the typical integrations that people will start with is in the sales side to CPQ solutions, it's on this engineering side to the PLM systems, and then it's on the manufacturing side as well to the ERP system. And then once you have done that and you have consolidated all the data in one system, then you can start leveraging and benefiting from that. And one of the ways to do that is using solution spaces. They can be very powerful in terms of how to optimize and validate your product offering. Now, I want to talk about A7. And A7 is going to be our biggest release this year. It's our 7th major release. It will come later this year, and it will contain some really exciting new capabilities that I would like to present to you. Before I do that, just want to make sure you all understand that ACE has been a SaaS solution now for more than a year, almost 2 years, and we have had quite a lot of success with bringing our customers onto ACE in the cloud as a SaaS solution. We are going to make A7 our first cloud-first offering. Up till now, the on-prem version of ACE and the SaaS version of ACE were completely identical. They were exactly the same functionality, whether you went on-prem or whether you went in the SaaS solution. But starting from A7, you'll start to see that we will have additional capabilities in our SaaS solution. And one of them I'll show in a moment. This release will be later this year. It will come in the 4th quarter, expected in November. So the first of those 2 capabilities I would like to introduce is the ACE configurator. Now, Configit has been doing configuration solutions for 25 years now, and it's maybe a little bit surprising, but we haven't up to this point have had a standard customer-facing configurator. We have decided now that this is the time to bring this out. The idea is that you can build your own configurator and make it available to internal channels, or you can make it available to externals, public websites, or maybe as part of your CPQ solution. It's a solution that requires no coding at all. You basically, I'll show you in a second how it looks like. You basically go into a web administration area and you click off how you would like the appearance of that web configurator to look like. And once you've done that, you can start using it, as I said, both internally, externally. You can use it as a standalone application. You can use it embedded in other applications. I've created or pasted in a few screenshots of how it looks today. It's still in a prototype version, and we are engaging with customers to learn how they would like to use this particular application. But basically, this is how it's going to work. You're going to go on our website. You can find ACE Configurator. You click on Get Started, and basically what you have to do is that you have to point to your ACE instance, say, here's my data, and once you've done that, you fill out a few fields about how you would like that configurator to look like, and then you can deploy it and have it available to whoever you decide it to be relevant for. We think this is going to be a significant step in shortening the time to value for our customers, making it less risky and faster to get data from ACE exposed in the various channels. So we have 3 places where we think this will make a big difference. The first place is where we would like to make sure that the data in ACE is correct. And the way to do that would be to expose that through this configurator to whoever stakeholders need to be able to validate it. The other place would be to basically, as I also mentioned, improve existing CPQ solutions. If you have a CPQ solution where you struggle with the performance of the configurator, the models are becoming too complex, the response times are getting into many seconds, we can take that data, move it to ACE, and use this configurator to expose the configuration logic as part of a normal CPQ flow. Still maintaining all of the rest of the CPQ in whatever system you have, Salesforce CPQ or some other system. This is sometimes referred to as bring your own C, so bring your own configurator, and that's exactly what we're doing here. And the third benefit is pretty obvious. This will save time and reduce cost. It will make it less risky for our customers to get data and value out of our systems. The other capability that we will bring in our ACE 7 is called ACE Thread. An ACE Thread, as you can almost see from the name, is a support for the digital thread. So ACE Thread is about exposing a set of APIs that allows you to store, manage, analyze configurations. This, of course, is also going to be available in the cloud. Now, the idea with ACE Thread is that you can save configurations, retrieve them, you can analyze them, you can share them. So this will make it quite easy to, for example, have a public website, save a configuration, send it to a Salesforce CPQ, have a sales rep pick it up, take the dialogue with the customer, and from there move it into an order. So the thread that we're talking about here is the thread about how do we carry configurations around in the lifecycle. Starting, of course, in the engineering space. How do you use configurations there? Well, you normally use them for validation. You create reference configurations, sometimes called control models. You save them. Whenever you do changes to your models, you can revalidate that those configurations actually are still correct. You can use them to do all kinds of validation in the engineering space. But then when you get into the sales area, that's where you will see, for example, as I said, a customer coming on our website, the configuration will have to go through some iterations. There's a quotation process. At some point, it's placed as an order. And each of these points will create new versions of those configurations, tracing back to the previous version. So you're going to have a full trace of these configurations. At some point, the configuration is sent to manufacturing. There, they might actually update it and change it. You can imagine in terms of logistics that you have to change it. We have Vestas as a customer. When they sell their wind turbines, depending on how they're going to ship that wind turbine to the customer, they will have to know how to manufacture it, whether it goes on a ship or on a train. And that will affect the configuration. And then at some point, you deliver it. You have to commission it. The commissioning phase is fairly important. Often there's a software configuration aspect to it as well that needs to know how the system was configured in the first place. You then later have to service it. Service technicians need access to the configuration so that they can bring the right tools, for example, bring the right spare parts. and eventually you're gonna, well, at some point you might want to upgrade it, add new capabilities to it, and thereby enhancing the lifespan of the product. And eventually you may have to decommission and replace it. And also in that replacement process, the information about how the product was configured to meet the needs of the customer in the first place is quite important in order to find a replacement part. So these are some of the areas where we can see the ACE thread to bring value. We see this as an important aspect when you want to validate models, that you can save configurations and link them to versions of configuration models and validate against them whenever you have changes in those models. We see that it, of course, is the foundation for supporting the traceability, and I hope you can see how the digital thread and for example, the digital product passport ties into this, that you need to, from the product, be able to look up the configuration and from there find all the details of, for example, the CO2 emission that went into it. And then finally, we also see a lot of potential in the analytics. Once you start creating these configurations, you're going to have all those that you were quoted, those that were actually sold. You can find out what was actually the configurations that were used on the website, which ones actually made it into an order. You can start doing analysis on that and start to understand what features are important, which ones could we phase out because nobody are interested in them. You can learn all that based on a database with all the configurations created over a long period of time. So that was basically what I had to say today. I hope I've gained some interest. If any of you out there have an interest in learning more about the ACE thread or the ACE configurator, we are very open to a dialogue with our customers because we are still developing these capabilities. As I said, they won't be generally available until 6 months from now. So if you have an interest, please reach out to us and we will be happy to take a dialogue to understand your requirements and your needs and your input in this regard. So what I have presented today is how CLM, of course, is a foundation for doing this type of work with also the regulatory requirements. Regulatory requirements are often handled manually. It's experts sitting in an office. They have all the knowledge about what goes on across the different markets. But the idea of actually taking those rules and putting them in as part of the configuration model, that is a fairly not standard way to do. And we strongly believe that will have a lot of merit moving forward because it's going to be very, very hard to optimize products across these different functions, that the packaging team understands the effect of changes in the product so that they totally can optimize the cost of bringing that to the customers. I've introduced a couple of capabilities that will come in A7. There will be many others. I'm sure we will tell you more when we get closer to the release date. But these, I think, are two key new capabilities that will help us bring value to our customers faster and less risky than otherwise. So with that, I will thank you for your attention and over to you, Shahid.